I would like to share an experience I had this week with you. I received an invitation in the mail from a family to celebrate a birthday. When I received the invitation, I just thought, boy, this little boy must be loved if the family was going to throw him a party. When I arrived, I saw the house was decorated with lights, and as I saw this, it warmed my heart, and I thought, this boy must be loved. When I entered into the house, I saw that it was decorated inside just as nice as it was on the outside. And as I saw this, I thought to myself, this boy must really be loved. We sat down and got ready to eat a fabulous meal. The food was fantastic. And as I was eating this meal, again I thought, this boy must really be loved. We all went into the living room and there was piles of presents. And I thought, wow, look at all these gifts. This boy must really be loved. At this point, I started thinking to myself, where is this boy? I haven't seen him yet. So I started looking around the house. I left the dining area. I didn't see him there. Went into the kitchen. Couldn't find him there either. As I continued to walk through the house, I went to the back, and there was a dark staircase, and there I saw the boy. He was standing on top of the stairs, and he was crying. I approached him and asked him why he was crying. He said, every year my family has this wonderful party, and they don't include me. And this made me really, really sad. This holiday season, I ask that you invite this little boy to your parties and your festivals that you have. During this season, we celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ. So as we decorate our tree, send our cards, open gifts, I ask that you invite him to your party. I wish you all a Merry Christmas.
I was reading this. Did you know John had his own discussing this